be no question of failure.
You're exactly on time, Doctor.
I have something to say to you, gentlemen.
Say it, then.
First, each one of us must submit to a physical examination by Dr. Bannerman. Because at least two of us here, and maybe more, have one of these surgically embedded in their skulls. Which means they're completely under non-human control. The computer has suggested certain changes in its own design, which we blindly carried out. Each one having to do with its feedback system, the thing's forebrain. Now it's achieved true thought, true personality, an intellect enormously more powerful and efficient even than yours, Professor. For it never sleeps or lies idle. This, gentlemen, and we ought to have foreseen it, is the revolt of the machine. It intends to put itself section by section into orbit around the Earth. And from that day forever forward, Earth will be its slave.
You know, at the dawn of the computer era, it was pretty clear that computers had the power and we didn't. 50 years ago, the way we talked about machines expressed our anxiety of that era. What if they thought or could outthink us? What if they could take over? It was up there with anxieties about the atomic bomb. Our fear then was that computers themselves would be some great sentient being and we'd be left behind. And this theme continued on. This is a shot from the 1960s from Time magazine. And it was clear that there were two cultures, the man culture and the machine culture, although you'd be hard-pressed to find anyone back then to actually call the machine side culture. Wisner or Minsky perhaps accepted, but not a lot of people thought of it that way. But this, of course, was a metaphor for our institutions, institutions that were in control, the media that was mass and we listened, brands that stamped things out and we kind of consumed. But as we now know, something's gone horribly wrong with that plot line, with that narrative along the way. Entertainment companies are now worried about when we create our own content. Brands are obsessed with us. That's become quite a flip. In fact, you could say that today that giant brain is us. And over the last 4 years, the whole theme of social computing, in fact, has been that. But today, we're going further. Today, that fabric, that giant brain fabric, is in fact in every object that we have and in every place we go. It's that collective thing that becomes sentient and raises a set of issues and creates possibilities. And I think also for like people in Silicon Valley who are so wrapped up in the kind of the present of social computing, it's interesting to remember that the real-time web is about far more than what people are doing. It's everything around us. So that's really what we're considering here. This stuff is at once common and ubiquitous, and yet an essential tool for government, for greater insights in how to manage the planet. And some of the most interesting stuff is being done right here in the Senseable Cities Lab. My friend Aaron Koblin collaborated with all of you on one of the more interesting projects here, the New York Talk Exchange, which I got to know Aaron because we've created a cultural institution in San Francisco together, and this was a project that was in the Museum of Modern Art. And it's interesting that this one project had a lot of the issues that we're coming up against. This basically was a project that looked at AT&T IP data between New York and different cities in the world to begin to get at a world where the growth issue is really around cities. How do neighborhoods map into different countries? How are people collaborating? And this one project kind of got to a number of these things. First of all, this rich thing became the basis of a number of graduate research theses that looked at the nature of commerce and immigrant populations between the cities. So the very fact that you could get at ambient data told you a lot. It also showed the power of aggregate data and raised the question that if you could actually go down to the individual level and go down to what's going on between firms, you could learn so much more. And it also hit this theme of culture and visualization, because this thing became culture. It went to the Museum of Modern Art, and it became part of this conversation of how does the general populace begin to see that when we have access to all of this stuff, our understanding of ourselves and our world begins to change. All of this in one project. I caught up with Aaron recently and had him walk me through some of the things he learned.
Basically, it's visualizing the relationship of New York to the other major cities across the globe. So you can see the quantity of calls from a specific location with New York over time. And we also drill down into specific areas of New York, into the boroughs, to show kind of the relationships of those specific areas. It's interesting because you can see the ways that times actually change the relationship to New York, and kind of who's kind of depending on who for the time zone shift. So this is taking a look at the specifics of New York. So we've broken it down into boroughs, and we've broken the boroughs down into subsections. We're basically looking at how those individual sections communicate with the rest of the world. So you can see kind of basically a look at demographics through the infrastructure of AT&T.
You know, it's interesting that this is a remarkable planning tool working off of digital exhaust. It doesn't require a lot of marginal additional cost, and it's an incredible tool for development. Some visualizations like this capture patterns of work and development or furthering our planet, and others get at the very human urge to celebrate, to congregate, and to party, but evidently always with a very healthy dose of digital exhaust fueling us along the way.
So this is looking at the city of Amsterdam as seen through SMS messages. And what you see right now is the daily ebb and flow, people waking up, sending messages, going to sleep, waking up again, sending messages. And now as we move around the city, you're going to see as we approach New Year's Eve, a lot more people send messages, bam. And you see the flux of people all sending that one New Year's Eve message.
You know, when Aaron showed that to me, there was that moment when New Year's Eve happened, and my reaction was when he said bam, to double click on that bam and understand what happened, because he instrumented the hell out of that, and I could tell something more was going on. So then we kind of backed up and took a look at that fascinating moment when things switched.
So now at New Year's Eve, you see people, bam, and I'll step back a couple frames and see the peak. You can actually see the sheer quantity of SMS messages that are sent at that specific time from different regions of the city as compared to other times. This is again looking at the daily ebb and flow. And then step back and see the spike.
It looks like we're looking at nearly 100x or at least at that moment.
Yeah, I mean it's magnitudes larger. This is being scaled slightly, so it's actually not one-to-one, but that means there's even more SMS messages that are actually being sent than what you're seeing here.